The plasma bolt missed Ethan's helmet by inches. He didn't flinch. The ruins of the Zalcor temple crumbled around him as another barrage tore through ancient stone. His rifle was up, targeting systems locked on the advancing Krell shock troops pouring through the breach. "Human! Fall back!" Princess Lyria's voice cut through his con, sharp and commanding. She stood 20 meters behind him, her crystalline blade humming with energy, her silver armor reflecting the firefight's chaos. "Negative," Ethan growled, dropping 2 Krell with precision shots. "They break through here, they reach the artifact chamber." The princess was supposed to be evacuating. Instead, she'd stayed. Stupid, brave, exactly what he'd expect from Zephyrian royalty. The problem was that every instinct in his body screamed at him to protect her, to throw himself between her and danger. It wasn't training. It wasn't duty. It was something else. Something primal that had started the moment their eyes met 3 days ago. Another explosion rocked the temple. The Krell weren't here for the princess. They wanted what lay beneath, the ancient technology her people had guarded for millennia. If it fell into their hands, a dozen human colonies would burn. Ethan's HUD flashed red. 50 hostiles. No reinforcements for another 10 minutes. The math was brutal. "Your Highness, move!" He fired in controlled bursts, buying seconds. "I don't take orders from mercenaries." But her voice wavered. She felt it too. That pull. That impossible connection that made no sense. Humans and Zephyrians didn't bond. The biology was incompatible. The cultural divide too vast. Yet every time she looked at him, her chest tightened, her pulse raced, and the ancestral markings on her wrists began to glow. The same markings that only appeared for a bonded mate. Impossible. A Krell commander emerged from the smoke, twice Ethan's size, battle armor gleaming. It roared. A sound that would make most soldiers freeze. Ethan charged instead, sliding beneath its swing, driving his combat blade up through the weak point in its armor. The creature collapsed. Behind him, Lyria gasped. The glow on her wrists intensified, pulsing with light. No, this couldn't be happening. Humans were barely considered sentient by most galactic standards. Clever warriors, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But bonded mates? That required soul resonance, genetic harmony, a connection written in the stars themselves. Ethan spun toward her, and their eyes locked. His own forearms burned beneath his armor. He knew without looking that marks were appearing on his skin too. Marks that matched hers perfectly. "What's happening?" His voice was rough, confused. "Run," she whispered. Not from the Krell. From this. From the truth neither of them could accept. But the universe didn't care about acceptance. The bond snapped into place like a physical force, and both of them staggered. Suddenly Ethan could feel her fear, her determination, her absolute terror at what this meant, and she could feel his rage, his protective fury, his complete willingness to die for her. The Krell were advancing. The temple was failing, and 2 impossible souls had just discovered they were one. The bond hit like a shockwave. Ethan's knees buckled as foreign emotions flooded his mind. Terror, wonder, denial, all hers, all now tangled with his own consciousness in ways that defied every human understanding of biology. "Contact left!" He forced the words out, muscle memory overriding the chaos in his head. His rifle barked, dropping 3 Krell who'd flanked their position, but his hands shook. He could feel Lyria's heartbeat as if it were his own, thundering in dual rhythm. The princess moved without thinking, her blade singing through the air. She'd trained for combat her entire life, but never like this. Every movement Ethan made, she anticipated. Every tactical decision formed in her mind a split second before he executed it. The bond wasn't just emotional. It was tactical fusion. "The chamber," she said, her voice steadier now. "We seal it or nothing else matters." Ethan nodded, already moving. They fought in perfect synchronization, covering angles neither verbally communicated. He'd fire, she'd advance. She'd strike, he'd reload. The Krell fell in confused disarray, unable to counter opponents who moved as one entity. The artifact chamber's entrance loomed ahead. A massive door carved with Zephyrian symbols that predated known civilization. Lyria's hand flew across the control panel, her fingers dancing through security sequences while Ethan held the corridor. 30 seconds. That's all she needed. They're bringing up heavy weapons, Ethan reported, his HUD painting the threat. A Krell siege cannon capable of vaporizing the entire section. 20 seconds to firing solution. 15 seconds left on the door sequence. The math didn't work. Lyria, run the sequence. I'll buy time. He pulled 2 thermal charges from his belt. No. Her hand caught his wrist. The touch sent electricity through both of them, the bond flaring white hot. We don't separate. Not now. Not ever. The certainty in her voice shook him. She wasn't pleading. She was stating cosmic law. Bonded mates didn't abandon each other. Not in Zephyrian culture. Not when the universe itself had declared them joined. I'm human, Ethan said through gritted teeth. This bond, whatever it is, it's a mistake. The stars don't make mistakes, warrior. 10 seconds on the sequence. The siege cannon powered up, energy coils glowing lethal blue, and my name is Lyria. Use it. Something in Ethan snapped. Maybe it was the bond. Maybe it was something deeper. He grabbed her by the armor, pulled her close, and said the words that would change everything. Then we do this together, Lyria. 5 seconds. They moved as one. Ethan threw the thermal charges into the corridor's support columns while Lyria slammed her palm against the final sequence lock. The door groaned, ancient mechanisms engaging. The Krell cannon fired. The world became light and sound and destruction. Ethan tackled Lyria through the opening door as the corridor behind them collapsed. Tons of temple stone crashed down, sealing them inside the chamber but cutting off the Krell advance. Dust choked the air. Emergency lighting flickered to life, casting everything in eerie blue. They lay tangled together, breathing hard. Ha! The bond sang between them, stronger now, undeniable. Ethan could feel her relief, her gratitude, her growing acceptance. And underneath it all, something terrifying. The bond was accelerating, deepening. Every Zephyrian instinct in her body was screaming that this human, this impossible human, was hers to protect, hers to claim, hers to keep. Your armor, Lyria whispered, sitting up. Let me see your arms. Ethan hesitated, then removed his gauntlets. The markings blazed across his forearms in intricate patterns, silver and gold, identical to hers. In Zephyrian culture, these marks were sacred. They appeared only once in a lifetime, only for the one soul destined to complete yours. How is this possible? His voice was raw. Humans don't bond. We don't have the genetic markers. We don't have the neural pathways. This violates every xenobiological principle. I know. Lyria's fingers traced the marks on his skin. The touch sent shockwaves through them both. But here we are. Behind them, the artifact chamber stretched into darkness. Ancient technology hummed with power, waiting. The Krell were temporarily blocked, but they'd dig through. Reinforcements were coming, but maybe not in time. And 2 souls who should never have connected were now bound by forces neither understood. We need to contact command, Ethan said, forcing himself to think tactically. Explain the situation. Explain what? Lyria stood, her blade still in hand. That the human mercenary and the Zephyrian princess are cosmically bonded? That every law of nature just rewrote itself? They'll think we've gone mad. Have we? She looked at him, really looked at him. Through the bond, Ethan felt her certainty, absolute and unshakable. No, this is real, and it's terrifying. The chamber's deeper sections pulsed with light. Whatever the ancients had hidden here, it was waking up. And, somewhere in the collapsed corridor, the Krell were already digging. The artifact's pulse synced with their heartbeats. Ethan felt it through the bond, a third rhythm joining theirs, ancient and vast. Lyria gasped, stumbling against a carved pillar. You feel that? Her silver eyes were wide, pupils dilated. Yeah, Ethan moved to steady her, then stopped. Every touch amplified the bond. Every contact made it harder to think clearly. What is this place, really? My people said it was a weapons cache. Lyria straightened, forcing herself forward into the chamber's depths. But the Royal Archives hinted at something else, something about the first bonding, the origin of our mating customs. The chamber opened into a vast cathedral of technology and stone. Crystalline structures jutted from the floor, pulsing with inner light. In the center stood a platform covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Geometry that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Lyria, stop. Ethan's tactical instincts screamed danger. We don't know what this does. We don't have a choice. She pointed upward. Through cracks in the ancient ceiling, Ethan could see Krell cutting equipment beginning to breach. They'll be through in minutes. Whatever's down here, we use it or lose it. Behind them, his combat scanner picked up seismic activity. The Krell weren't just cutting through from above anymore. They were tunneling from 3 directions. Smart. Brutal. Very Krell. 5 minutes, Ethan estimated. Maybe less. Lyria approached the platform, her markings glowing brighter with each step. The archives mentioned a Guardian protocol, a defense system activated only by bonded pairs. My ancestors thought it was metaphorical, and now I think they were very literal. She stepped onto the platform. The symbols blazed to life, and the entire chamber shook. Ethan, I need you here. The bond isn't complete until we both accept it. Every human instinct told him to refuse. This was alien technology, alien biology, alien everything. He was a soldier, not someone's destined mate. That kind of cosmic nonsense didn't exist in his world. But through the bond, he felt Lyria's absolute conviction. This wasn't just about them. Whatever the ancients had built here, it required 2 souls in perfect harmony. It required what they'd become. Ethan stepped onto the platform. The universe cracked open. Information flooded his mind, not in words but in pure understanding. The ancients hadn't been one species. They'd been 12, unified through bonding, through connections that transcended biology. They'd built a civilization that spanned galaxies, held together by pairs like him and Lyria, warriors and leaders, scientists and artists, all connected, all unified. And they'd left guardians, sleeper protocols embedded in sacred sites, waiting for bonded pairs to awaken them. I see it, Lyria breathed. Her consciousness merged with his, showing him her perspective. Through her eyes, he wasn't just a human. He was her balance, her counterweight, her perfect complement. Where she was royalty, he was warrior. Where she carried duty, he carried freedom. Together, they were complete. The platform erupted with energy. Tendrils of light wrapped around them both, not painful but transformative. Ethan felt his body changing, adapting. The bond wasn't just mental anymore. It was physical, rewriting his genetic code to match hers, creating something new. What's happening to us? His voice echoed strangely. Evolution, Lyria said. We're becoming what the ancients were. The bridge between species. The ceiling collapsed. Krell warriors poured through, weapons blazing. But the platform's energy had formed a barrier, shimmering and impenetrable. They fired uselessly against it while the transformation continued. Ethan could feel new abilities awakening, enhanced reflexes, expanded awareness. The bond now let him process information at Zephyrian speeds while maintaining human adaptability. Lyria deigned human resilience, the stubborn refusal to quit that defined his species. The Guardian Protocol, Lyria said, her voice resonating with new power. It's not a weapon. It's us. She was right. The platform wasn't creating a defense system. It was creating defenders, bond pairs transformed into living weapons, capable of protecting the ancient sites until proper reinforcements arrived. The energy barrier dropped. Ethan moved faster than thought, his rifle discarded. He didn't need it anymore. His hands crackled with the same energy that powered Lyria's blade. He struck the first Krell with an open palm, and the creature flew backward, armor shattered. Lyria danced through their ranks, her blade now extension of pure light. Every movement was lethal grace, every strike perfectly calculated. And through the bond, she and Ethan fought as one consciousness in 2 bodies. The Krell never stood a chance. Within 90 seconds, the The chamber floor was littered with unconscious enemies. Not dead. The Guardian Protocol didn't kill unless necessary. It neutralized threats with overwhelming force but minimum lethality. Ethan looked at his hands, still glowing with residual energy. This is permanent? I don't know. Lyria's markings had spread, now covering her arms up to her shoulders. Ethan's matched them perfectly. But I know we can't hide this. The moment we leave this chamber, every government, every military, every scientist in the galaxy will want to study us. Let them try. Ethan's grin was fierce. I'd like to see them take on a bonded pair. Above them, the sounds of battle intensified. Human reinforcements had arrived, engaging the Krell forces outside. Rescue was coming. But rescue meant questions. Meant exposure, meant their lives changing forever. Ethan. Lyria's hand found his. The touch no longer overwhelmed them. They'd adapted, grown into the bond. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Together, he agreed. The Guardian Protocol pulsed one final time, then faded. But what it had awakened in them remained. They were no longer just human and Zephyrian. They were something new. Something the galaxy hadn't seen in 10,000 years. And outside, the universe was about to learn what that meant. The rescue team breached the outer chamber with military precision. Captain Alan Voss led the squad, his grizzled face set in professional concern. Then he saw Ethan and Lyria. Saw the glowing markings, saw the unconscious Krell scattered like broken toys, and his expression shifted to pure shock. What in the hell happened down here? Voss's rifle stayed trained on the platform, his team fanning out in defensive positions. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between the weapons and Lyria. The movement was instinctive, protective. Through the bond, he felt her irritation at being shielded and her reluctant acceptance that he couldn't help himself. Stand down, Captain. Threats neutralized. Ethan's voice carried new authority, resonant with power he was still learning to control. Kane. Your biosigns are off the charts. Medical says your reading is non-human. Voss's eyes flicked to Lyria, and the princess is showing human genetic markers. Someone better start explaining before I call in a containment team. You could try. Lyria moved beside Ethan, not behind him. Her blade was sheathed, but her stance was combat-ready, though I suspect it would end poorly for everyone involved. She wasn't threatening, just stating facts. The Guardian Protocol had made them formidable beyond normal limits. Voss was a good soldier, but his team couldn't touch them if it came to violence. Princess Lyria, your father's fleet is in orbit. He's demanding your immediate return. Voss lowered his rifle slightly. The diplomatic situation is deteriorating fast. Zephyrian Command thinks we kidnapped you. Ridiculous. Lyria's anger flared through the bond, and Ethan felt his own temper rise in response. They had to be careful. Their emotions were linked now, amplifying each other. I stayed by choice. To do what exactly? Voss gestured at the chamber. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you two activated some ancient superweapon and merged into something that's making every scanner on the planet scream warnings. Ethan exchanged a glance with Lyria. How did they explain this? That the universe had decided they were soulmates? That ancient technology had rewritten their biology? That they were now bonded in ways that made separation physically painful? We need to speak with both our commanders, Ethan said finally. This affects more than just us. That's not going to happen. A new voice cut through the chamber, cold and precise. Colonel Rita Garza emerged from the rescue team, her intelligence insignia gleaming. Kane, you're contaminated with unknown alien technology. Protocol requires immediate quarantine. Try it. Ethan didn't move, but energy crackled along his arms. Not a threat, a promise. Garza's hand moved toward her sidearm. Through the bond, Ethan felt Lyria preparing to strike, her combat instincts screaming danger. This was spiraling bad fast. Everyone calmed down. Voss stepped between them, hands raised. Garza, whatever Kane is now, he just saved this site from Krell capture. We can argue protocol after we secure the area. The area is secure. Lyria's voice cut like crystal. The Guardian Protocol has sealed the chamber. Only bonded pairs can enter now. The Krell failed. The artifact is safe. Bonded pairs? Garza's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Lyria raised her arm, showing the markings that now covered her skin from wrist to shoulder. Ethan mirrored the gesture. The symbols matched perfectly, glowing in synchronized pulses. It means, Lyria said quietly, that this human is my mate. Recognized by ancient law, sealed by technology older than either of our civilizations, and bound by forces you cannot break. The chamber went silent. Voss looked like he'd been hit with a stun grenade. Garza's hand fell away from her weapon, shock replacing suspicion. That's impossible, Garza whispered. Humans and Zephyrians can't bond. The biology doesn't work. It does now. Ethan felt Lyria's certainty flowing through him, strengthening his resolve. The ancients designed the bonding process to work across species. They built bridges, not walls. And we just became the first bridge in 10,000 years. Your father will never accept this, Voss said to Lyria. King Aldrich barely tolerates humans as allies. His daughter bonded to a mercenary? That's gonna start a war. Then let it start. Lyria's voice was steel. I won't deny what the universe has made true. Through the bond, Ethan felt her fear beneath the bravado. She was terrified of her father's reaction, of losing her status, of the political firestorm coming. But she was more terrified of losing him. The bond had made that impossible to contemplate. There has to be another way, Ethan said. Some precedent, some law we can use. There is. A new figure entered the chamber, moving with fluid grace. Ambassador Kira Thorne, the human liaison to the Zephyrian court. Her silver hair was pulled back severely, her diplomatic robes immaculate despite the battle outside. The Accords of Unification, ancient treaty law that supersedes modern governance. I've never heard of it. Garza's suspicion returned, because it hasn't been invoked in millennia. Thorne approached slowly, her eyes fixed on the markings. When the old empire fell, most of the bonding infrastructure was destroyed. The treaties became theoretical, but they're still legally binding across 73 recognized governments, including both the Human Federation and the Zephyrian Kingdom. What do they say? Lyria asked. That bonded pairs are sovereign entities, not subject to the laws of their birth nations, not subject to military command, not subject to royal authority. Thorne's smile was sharp. Congratulations. You two just became your own government. The implications hit like a physical blow. Ethan and Lyria were no longer human, and Zephyrian. They were something else entirely. Something the galaxy's legal framework recognized but had forgotten how to handle. King Aldrich will never accept that, Voss said again. He won't have a choice. Thorne pulled out a holocom. I'm transmitting the treaty documentation now. Every major government will receive it simultaneously. By the time your father's fleet realizes what's happening, Princess, the legal protections will be ironclad. This will cause chaos, Garza said. Yes, Thorne's expression was satisfied. Glorious precedent-setting chaos, and it will keep these two alive long enough to figure out what they've become. Outside, the battle had ended. Krell forces were retreating, human and Zephyrian ships achieving orbit. But the real war was just beginning. A political war, a cultural war, a war over what it meant when the universe itself decided two souls belonged together. Ethan looked at Lyria. Through the bond, he felt her resolve matching his own. They hadn't chosen this, but they wouldn't run from it either. What now? He asked. Now, Lyria said, we show them what bonded pairs can do. The flagship's conference room was designed to intimidate. Polished obsidian walls reflected the assembled leaders like dark mirrors. King Aldrich sat at the head of the table, his silver crown gleaming under cold lights, his face carved from stone and fury. Beside him, General Marcus Pike represented the Human Federation, his uniform crisp and his jaw tight. Between them, Ethan and Lyria stood alone. You will renounce this obscenity. Aldrich's voice could freeze stars. Immediately. I cannot, father. Lyria's spine was steel. Through the bond, Ethan felt her heart breaking, even as her resolve hardened. The bonding is complete. Renunciation would kill us both. Then you choose death over duty? Aldrich rose from his seat, towering and terrible. You disgrace our lineage for a human mercenary? Ethan's hands clenched. Energy sparked involuntarily along his markings. Pike noticed, his eyes widening slightly. "Kane, stand down!" Pike ordered. "That's a direct command. With respect, General, I don't answer to you anymore." Ethan kept his voice level. "The Accords make that clear. The Accords are ancient nonsense." Aldrich dismissed them with a wave. "Relics of a dead civilization. They hold no power here." 73 governments disagree. Ambassador Thorne entered the room, a datapad in hand, including 12 founding members of the current Galactic Council. The treaty framework is being reactivated as we speak. Bond pairs are recognized sovereign entities under interstellar law. I will not have my daughter bound to an inferior species. Aldrich's contempt was a physical force. The bond flared. Ethan felt Lyria's rage spike, felt his own anger rise to match it. The room's temperature dropped as frost formed on the obsidian walls. Both of them were losing control, their combined power responding to heightened emotions. Ethan breathed. Lyria's hand found his. The contact stabilized them both, the bond settling into calmer rhythms. Pike leaned forward, studying them. The energy discharge. You two did that together? We did it without meaning to. Ethan forced his hands to unclench. The Guardian Protocol enhanced us. We're still learning the limits. There are no limits to your arrogance. Aldrich's voice cracked like thunder. You endanger everyone in this room with your instability. Then perhaps we should demonstrate control. Lyria stepped forward, releasing Ethan's hand. Immediately he felt the separation like a wound. The bond stretched but didn't break, painful and insistent. Father, you claim humans are inferior. Prove it. Test us. Lyria, what are you doing? Ethan asked, through their connection. Trust me, she answered silently. Aldrich's eyes glittered with dangerous interest. What do you propose? A trial by combat. Ancient tradition still legally binding in Zephyrian law. Lyria's voice rang clear. If we fail, I renounce my claim to the throne and accept exile. If we succeed, you recognize the bond and grant us the autonomy the Accords promise. Absolutely not. Pike stood abruptly. Kane, you're not doing this. Actually, General, I am. Ethan moved to Lyria's side. Through the bond, he understood her strategy. Aldrich respected strength above all else. Words wouldn't convince him. Only action would. Against whom would you fight? Aldrich's tone suggested he already had someone in mind. Your champion, Commander Valen. Lyria named the deadliest warrior in the Zephyrian fleet. 2 against 1. He's enhanced, cybernetically augmented, and has never lost a challenge. He'll kill you both. Aldrich's statement wasn't concern. It was certainty. Then you'll have your wish, Father. The bond will end, and your daughter's disgrace will die with her. Lyria's voice didn't waver. But if we win, you honor the ancient laws. You accept what we've become. The room held its breath. Ethan felt Lyria's calculated risk through the bond. Valen was legendary, a warrior who'd ended rebellion single-handedly. Fighting him was suicide for most soldiers. But they weren't most soldiers anymore. Done. Aldrich's smile was cruel. The trial begins in 1 hour. Prepare yourselves for death. They were escorted to separate prep chambers. The moment the door closed behind Ethan, the separation hit hard. The bond stretched across the ship's corridors, aching and insistent. He could feel Lyria in the adjacent room, feel her determination, her fear, her absolute faith in him. You're insane. Voss appeared in the doorway, carrying Ethan's combat gear. Valen has killed 17 challengers. He's more machine than flesh. You can't win this. We can. Ethan began strapping on armor, movements automatic. The Guardian Protocol didn't just enhance us individually. It made us perfectly synchronized. Valen's fought enhanced opponents before. He's never fought a bonded pair. That's a hell of a gamble. It's the only play we have. Ethan checked his weapons. though he suspected he wouldn't need them. The energy they could channel was more effective than any rifle. If we run, we're fugitives forever. If we submit, the bond kills us. This is the only path forward. Through the wall, he felt Lyria's agreement. She was thinking the same thing, reaching the same conclusion. The bond made them one tactical mind. Ethan. Voss's voice was serious. If this goes wrong, if Aldrich doesn't honor the deal, I'll make sure your name is remembered. You're a good soldier. You deserve better than dying in some alien honor fight. I'm not dying today, Captain. Ethan's grin was fierce. I've got too much to live for now. The arena was a circular platform surrounded by force fields, designed for Zephyrian combat trials. Thousands watched from observation decks, human and Zephyrian alike. The tension was nuclear. This wasn't just a fight. It was a statement about the future of human-alien relations. Ethan and Lyria entered from opposite sides. The moment they saw each other, the bond surged with joy and relief. Being apart, even for an hour, had been agony. They met in the center, hands clasping, markings glowing in perfect harmony. Ready? Lyria asked. With you? Always. Commander Valen entered last. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, his body a fusion of organic and mechanical perfection. Cybernetic eyes glowed red. Weapon ports bristled from his arms. He'd been built for war, refined through decades of combat, enhanced beyond normal limits. He looked at them like insects. Begin! Aldrich's voice echoed through the arena. Valen moved like lightning. His fist, surrounded by kinetic force, aimed straight for Lyria's head. She wasn't there. Neither was Ethan. They'd split, flanking, moving with inhuman coordination. Ethan struck low. Lyria struck high. Valen blocked both, but barely. His sensors hadn't tracked their speed. Through the bond, they fought as one organism, anticipating each other's moves before conscious thought. Interesting. Balin's voice was synthesized. Emotionless. You've been enhanced. It won't matter. He activated weapon systems. Energy beams lanced out, filling the arena with deadly light. But Ethan and Lyria danced through the barrage, their movements perfectly synchronized, each covering the other's blind spots. This wasn't a fight. It was a demonstration. And the galaxy was watching. Valen adapted fast. His combat algorithms analyzed their patterns, predicted their movements. He caught Ethan with a backhand strike that sent him crashing into the arena wall. Through the bond, Lyria felt his pain as her own, felt ribs crack and lungs struggle for air. Her scream was rage-made sound. She channeled everything the Guardian Protocol had given her, every ounce of enhanced power, and struck Valen with force that cracked his armor plating. He staggered, surprised for the first time in decades. Impossible, he said. Your power increased, because it had. The bond didn't just connect them, it amplified them. When one was hurt, the other's protective fury doubled their strength. Ancient design, brilliant and terrifying. Ethan pushed himself up, blood on his lips but fire in his eyes. Through the bond, he sent Lyria not words but pure intent. One final, coordinated strike. Everything they had. Together. She understood instantly. They moved as one, circling Valen from opposite sides. He tracked them both, weapon systems charging, but he made a critical error. He saw two opponents. They were one fighter and two bodies. Ethan struck first, drawing Valen's defense. Lyria struck second, exploiting the opening. But the real attack came through the bond itself. They channeled their combined energy directly at Valen's cybernetic core, not through physical contact, but through pure directed will. The Guardian Protocol had given them more than enhanced bodies. It had given them abilities the modern galaxy had forgotten existed. Valen's systems overloaded. Sparks erupted from his armor. He dropped to one knee, weapons offline. Defeated not by superior force, but by something he couldn't comprehend. Yield, Ethan said quietly. For a long moment, Valen didn't move. Then, slowly, he placed his fist over his heart in the Zephyrian gesture of honorable defeat. I yield. You fight as the ancients did. As bonded pairs were meant to. The arena erupted, not in cheers, but in stunned silence. They'd done the impossible. proven themselves against the kingdom's greatest warrior, forced the galaxy to acknowledge what they'd become. King Aldrich stood in his observation box, face unreadable. The entire future balanced on his next words. The trial is complete. His voice carried across the arena. The bonded pair has proven their worth through strength of arms and unity of purpose. By ancient law, I recognize their sovereignty. Relief flooded through the bond, so intense it brought tears to Lyria's eyes. But Aldrich wasn't finished. However, his tone turned cold. Recognition does not mean acceptance. My daughter has chosen a path that separates her from the throne. From this day forward, she is no longer my heir. She is no longer Zephyrian royalty. She is merely bonded. The words hit Lyria like physical blows. Ethan felt her heart break, her sense of loss, everything she'd sacrificed crystallizing in one terrible moment. She'd known this might happen, but knowing didn't make it hurt less. "Father," she started, "I have spoken." Aldrich turned away. "You have your freedom. That is all you will receive from me." The observation box emptied. Zephyrian officials followed their king, some casting sympathetic glances, others showing only contempt. The humans were kinder. Pike approached the arena floor, his expression conflicted but not hostile. "Kane, the Federation recognizes the Accords. You'll have legal protection, resources, whatever you need." He paused. "For what it's worth, you fought with honor today. Both of you. Thank you, General." Ethan helped Lyria to her feet. She was shaking, trying to process everything she'd lost. "What will you do now?" Pike asked. Ethan looked at Lyria, felt through the bond what she needed. Not pity, not comfort. Purpose. A reason to believe the sacrifice mattered. "We'll do what bonded pairs were always meant to do," he said. "We'll build bridges, show the galaxy that species barriers are illusions. That unity is possible. A noble goal." Ambassador Thorne joined them, her expression satisfied. "And conveniently, several governments are very interested in studying what you've become. You'll have no shortage of opportunities." Over the following weeks, everything changed. Ethan and Lyria became living proof that the old ways still held power. Other sites activated, responding to their presence. More artifacts awakened. And slowly, carefully, other cross-species bonds began forming. Not many, but enough to suggest the Guardian Protocol had triggered something larger. They established a compound on a neutral world, neither human nor Zephyrian. A place where bonded pairs could gather, learn, grow into what the ancients had intended. It wasn't easy. The politics were brutal, the prejudice real, the challenges endless, but they faced it together. 6 months after the trial, Lyria stood on their balcony, watching ships arrive carrying new bonded pairs. Behind her, Ethan wrapped his arms around her waist, their markings glowing softly in the twilight. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. She leaned into him, their bond humming with contentment. "I lost a throne. I gained a universe." "That's very poetic." "Shut up." She turned in his arms, smiling. "You've made me sentimental. You've made me believe in destiny." They kissed as stars ignited overhead, two souls who'd been declared impossible, now proving the galaxy wrong with every breath. The bond pulsed between them, stronger each day, a living testament that love recognized no boundaries. Somewhere, King Aldrich watched reports of his daughter's success with an expression no one could read. Somewhere, human and Zephyrian children learned about the bonded pairs who changed history. Somewhere, ancient technology whispered approval at paths finally walked again. But here, now, on this balcony between worlds, Ethan and Lyria simply held each other and knew one undeniable truth. The universe had been right. They were exactly where they